This video has been sponsored by Whatnot. More on them at the end of the video.
Well, hello there, Pokemon Masters. Birdkeeper Toby here, and where is here? Well, I'm on my Great Japan adventure, of course, sponsored by Whatnot, and thank you to them, because without them I wouldn't be able to be here at the Pokemon World Championships in Yokohama, or as you might know it, Vermilion City. That back there, that's the SS Anne. But when I think about Vermilion City, and I think about the things going on here, I think about the Pokemon War and Lieutenant Surge, but I also think about the identical replica to the Vermilion City gym that exists in Alola, a region that doesn't typically have Pokemon gyms or Pokemon champions. Except, wait a minute, I'm pretty sure I remember a backpacker in Pokemon X and Y talking about the champion of the Alola region being something else. But didn't the champion only exist after the events of Sun and Moon? X and Y is definitely set before. There's a confusion here, a little bit of a mystery, so let's of course look into it.
Enjoy the enticing Eastern influence. This is the sign at the gateway to Mali City, one of my favorite cities in all of the Alola region. It's on Ula Ula Island, and Eastern in this context is referring to the regions of Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, and Sinnoh. Eastern has been substituted before also for China in the Pokemon world. We know that in Paldea, the merchant who came from the east brought with him the treasures of ruins, and of course in Arcanine's old Pokedex entries it refers to China, but in more modern Pokedex entries it refers to the eastern parts of the world. So the Asiatic areas of the Pokemon world are still in the east, much like they are in the real world, perhaps represented by the fact that globes in the Pokemon world do appear to look like the globes of the human Earth. Wait, they're still humans in Pokemon, the real Earth. This means that the Alola region, inspired by Hawaii, is a world away over in the west, part of the United States of Pokamerica. Right up there with the good old United States of Unova, a whole world away. Except it's not, is it? I'm all one for Pokemon theories, but we know the Earth is in fact a sphere, it is a globe, which means that the Alola region and the Kanto region are actually quite close together. And this is reflected in the culture of Alola. As I mentioned, the sign describes the Eastern influence. We can see in the Mali City Gardens a 5-tiered golden tower, much like those seen in the Johto region. And of course, in the Mali City, there is the Cantonian Gym. Furthermore, on the docks of Here City, NPCs talk about how the city was created by people coming over from the Kanto and Johto region on Pokemon back. There's also the Paniola Ranch in Alola, which is not too dissimilar from the Moo Moo milk farms that appear in Johto. So these regions are connected. And that's not a surprise. When the Alola region was first revealed, I immediately thought of one area, an area that appears only in the animated series, but you're probably familiar with it, the Orange Islands. The Orange Islands are a group of islands south of the Kanto region, and replaced in the games mostly with the Sevi Islands. However, one of the big features of the Orange Islands was that of regional variation. There were Vileplume and Butterfree and a Crystal Onyx, all of whom took different looks depending on their environment or what they ate. But sure enough, when the Alola region was revealed, we got alongside it our first ever regional variations, and they were all of Kanto Pokemon. The Vulpix and Sandshrew line, the Meowth line, the Grimer line, and of course, Alolan Executor, Marowak, and Raichu. Alolan Executor even depicted older artwork that had appeared on the Japanese box for Jungle. This region, after all, was the celebration of 20 years of Pokemon, and there were plenty of callbacks to Generation 1, especially in Mali City. We actually see in the Mali City Garden Growlithe statues, much like the now Hisuian Growlithe statues that are appearing in Kitakami. There was also the Nugget Bridge, at the end of which stood veteran Dom, a trainer who used the same team as the Rocket Grunt from the end of the Nugget Bridge in the Kanto region. He wonders what Giovanni is up to nowadays. It's interesting to note as well that with the tower in the top right corner of Mali City, if this town was established, which I believe it was, over 150 years ago, then this may well be what the original towers for Ho-Oh and Lugia looked like in Ecruteak City, or perhaps in other areas of Johto before they were burnt down. So given this Cantonian and Johtonian influence, it seems surprising, doesn't it, that this region doesn't have a regular Pokemon League. Instead, it has trials, much like the gyms from the Orange Islands, with the Pokemon League being built during the events of Pokemon Sun and Moon. But this is odd, and actually contradicts evidence in Sun and Moon and in previous games. In Pokemon X and Y, there was a backpacker who had been traveling the Pokemon world. He had visited all of the regions, from Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, Sinnoh, Unova, and some other region, and he gives you the strange souvenir. This souvenir can be bought in shops in the Alola region, but of course we didn't know that at the time. And at the time, the backpacker, this hiker, he mentions that you should really meet the champion of the region they came from. Not any of the prior regions, no, their champion was something else. But of course, we now know that they're from Alola, and Alola doesn't have a champion. X and Y happened before Sun and Moon. This is evidenced by the fact that Dexio and Xena appear older in these games. So what gives here? Furthermore, in Marley City, in the library, there is a book. Springing forth from Alola, I became an Island Challenge champion, and wanted to show my vaunted skills in a far-off region. But those city trainers were strong, so as champion, if I had just passed the time peacefully, I wouldn't have had to suffer so much, I say, cursing myself. But I want to leave my claw marks on the world. Today too, I'll be pushed by my partner to exact revenge for yesterday. Rise with my remaining strength. Yes, springing forth from Alola. This is an oddly written book. It is strange, but it talks about this person being the champion of the Alola Island Challenge. So this suggests that there was island champions before the games existed. And it seems this was always true. There was quite a misunderstanding back when Sun and Moon first came out that the Alola region didn't have a champion because it didn't have a Pokemon League. But when you re-look at the dialogue that Kukui gives you when he shows you Mount Lana Killer, he suggests that no, they're just trying to establish a Pokemon League that the world will recognize. Alola has always had its own customs of beating the trials, defeating the Kahunas, and then defeating them again on Mount Lana Killer to become an island champion. So champions have always existed. I wonder which champion the hiker was referring to. Perhaps this was a reference to Ash Ketchum. I know what you're thinking. Ash Ketchum is not canon in the world of the games. But Ash Ketchum did first become a champion in the Alola region. Additionally, at the time of Sun and Moon, it wasn't so sure that Ash wasn't canon. In one of the many trial rooms, the one for Mimikyu, you can actually find a photograph of Ash's shoulder with Pikachu hanging out there. And at the end of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, there is a reference to a trainer with a Charizard. This is referring to Alolan from the Mega Evolution special, suggesting that the anime might be canon. Nonetheless, there are other options. After completing Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, there is the title defense, where other trainers can come and challenge you. They include Faber and Galadion, Hapu and Hau. Mullane and Plumeria is always there, as well as Kukui, who is said to have completed the Kanto Gym Challenge a long time ago. But there are two other trainers who are a little bit more mysterious. First up, there's youngster Tristan, who is, well, a youngster. I think he's probably too young to be a champion already. Additionally, youngster Tristan is actually a trainer that you first meet on your journey around Alola, so definitely not a champion that predates you. The other is Ryuki, and Ryuki is a lot more worldly and has definitely gone traveling, perhaps has sprung forth from Alola. Ryuki appears as the Cantonian gym leader in Marley City, perhaps returning home to where his book was originally written. The gym he runs, of course, mimics that of the Vermilion City Gym, and he even gives out these Vermilion City Gym badges. It is interesting to note that you, the player character from Kanto, already has this badge at your house at home and it's signed, which is a reference to the upcoming Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee that came out afterwards, where Lieutenant Surge would actually sign his gym badge. Quite an odd thing to do. However, there's a problem with this also. Ryuki says that he came all the way across the sea here to Alola to spread his fame, which suggests that he's not from Alola. It is true that he's wearing a rock and roll getup, perhaps a disguise, perhaps he doesn't want to be recognized as who he was before, but we really don't have enough information to go on for that. So who else even is there? Well, there is one other trainer that is not a kahuna of any of the islands, but still appears as an Elite Four member a little bit later on, and that is Kahili. And I think this is the most likely candidate. Kahili literally says when he first talked to her in Sun and Moon that they've been traveling the world to improve their Pokemon battling skills. So they have sprung forth from Alola after becoming the Challenge Champion, which they directly say. This is the champion that the hiker was referring to all these years. It really is such an odd thing, because for the longest time I have believed, and I know I'm not the only one out there on the internet who has believed, that Alola has not had champions before, and so this hiker, this was a big mystery, but it really wasn't. Kahili was there the whole time. A fellow bird keeper. Now, I love that I went to Vermilion City, the real-world version of Vermilion City, and I decided to come up with a theory for the Alola region, but hey, it ties together somehow. I gotta say a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Whatnot, who sponsored many of these videos and allowed for my trip to Japan to even happen, to get to visit these real-world Pokemon locations. Whatnot is a live buying and selling platform, you know that already, and if you click the link at the top of the description or scan the QR code on screen, you get £10 free credit added to your account. With that £10 free credit, you can head on over to my store and pick yourself up 3 free packs of Korean Eevee heroes, or just head on over to my next stream where I'll be opening some 151. It's an incredible collector community, so what are you waiting for? Head on over, join us on Whatnot, and thank you so much for Whatnot for sponsoring this video. And of course, so hi Pokemon Masters.
Hello there, it's me, Professor Oak. This video's over, so please choose another one wisely, and quickly. Bye-bye.
I owe the biggest debt of gratitude to those of you who've been supporting me over the years, including the big patrons of this month, NewOrca, Michael Hornshoe, Lucas Gates, Jed Rubin, Charmander Ansbel, and Anthony Lee. Thank you so much.